Talking about it, I'll be talking about it. Dennis Prager here. Join me this morning at 11, right here on AM 560, The Answer.
Good morning, Dan and Amy, and good news for Disney employees. Disney's going to pay 125,000 employees a one-time cash bonus for $1,000.
Where's our money?
Yeah.
Yeah. Should I start up the cause for everyone who works here?
You should. You'll be
Because everyone's getting taxed.
the Cesar Chavez of Salem Media.
Yeah.
Like
Si se puede, el pueblo unido jamás será vencido.
like what you said, right.
Exactly.
The IMF, International Monetary Fund, also adjusting its forecast for world economic growth, putting it to 0.2 of a percentage point higher than its last forecast, crediting the expected impact of U.S. tax cuts. Also upgrading their projection for U.S. GDP growth, suggesting it would be 1.2% higher by 2022 than it would have been without tax reform, and predicting nearly 3% GDP growth for the U.S. this year. And a tenth of a point when you're talking about GDP growth in an $18 trillion economy. That's real money representing real activity, real job creation, real wage growth. For more on this topic and others, we're pleased to be joined by our friend Steve Moore, Chief Economist of the Heritage Foundation, Wall Street Journal columnist, CNN senior economist, all kinds of titles. Steve, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Morning, guys. Getting tired of winning yet?
No, I'm not. We're winning on some fronts and we're struggling on others. But the kind of the early returns on the impact of the tax cuts just a month in, before people really are even realizing it on their paychecks in a material way, is pretty good, isn't it?
It is. By the way, I never thought I'd hear Dan Proft quote the IMF. I mean, that's a new level.
How about it? Isn't it?
Those are the biggest idiots on
Exactly.
the planet.
Hey, even a broken clock, Steve Moore.
There you go. But actually, their forecast is still way too low. These are the same people who said that Donald Trump would cause a global financial meltdown if he was elected president.
Yeah, well, that's true.
Look, it is all good right now in the economy. The news just keeps coming in about one company after another. Now it's over 2.5 million people who have gotten a pay raise. I know that Nancy Pelosi fans think this is just crumbs. But for American workers, $1,500, $2,000 increase in tax. Lower taxes and these bonuses and pay raises. It's just a great story. And by the way, it's even exceeded, the expectations that Larry Kudlow and I had when we drew this up on the chalkboard 2 years ago. So a great story. Now, the one thing that could, disrupt this a little bit, all of this good news on the economy, is some of this trade stuff, some of this protectionist measures that are coming out of Trump. And by the way, are you ready to pay an extra $400 for a
washing machine,
for a washer and dryer?
See, that's the thing. I know my washer and dryer. I've had it for 27 years. It's about to break down. It's an oldie but goodie. So seriously, should I buy one this week?
I would get a new one right away, Amy. Hurry before these new tariffs kick in.
But why is he doing it?
You also need to get. Amy also needs to get new solar panels for the solar farm that she's got next to her house.
Exactly.
But so why is he doing this? Why is he increasing tariffs on washing machines and solar panels?
Look, I think Donald Trump is, more of a traditional trade protectionist. I mean, he's not a Herbert Hoover, but I think he does believe that this will create jobs. I think he's wrong. Look, I do think when it comes to China, where they've got a lot of theft of our intellectual property and so on, I'm in favor of getting tough. But what worries me is the future of NAFTA. NAFTA has been a great thing for the North America continent. It's been good for Canada. It's been good for Mexico. It's been good for the United States. We want North America to be the power center on the globe and take away power from Asia and Europe. So Trump is, I think that, these negotiations are going on now as we speak in Montreal. Trump, what was it, Dan, he said during the campaign? The worst trade deal in the history of civilization or something. And so I think that what worries me is Canada and Mexico are not coming to the table offering some kinds of concessions. I mean, Trump wants a 2.0 on NAFTA. I want a 2.0. It has to be modernized. It's a good deal, but it's 20 years old, and things have to be fixed in this. But I think if the Canadians and Mexicans just say, well, we're going to stick with what we got, we're not going to make any concessions, I do worry that Trump may just throw up his hands and say, okay, we're out of here, and that would be That would be a disaster. And that was the vision of Ronald Reagan. When I worked from in 87, 88, it was to make the entire North American continent a zone of free trade without terrorists, and that's in jeopardy right now.
Do you think that it's Wilbur Ross's snoring through those meetings is disrupting the negotiations?
Man, he's got to wake up.
Well, actually, I want a Commerce Secretary who's snoring. I don't think we should have a Commerce Secretary. And maybe it would be a good thing if the Education Secretary and the Labor Secretary were falling asleep too.
Yeah, all right.
But that was a pretty funny story.
Okay, well, we'll
you just got to wake up.
He's sleepy.
You just don't wake the baby.
Well, look, when the economy's growing at 3.5% and you're creating all these jobs, you get the lowest number. Do you see the other statistic that came out last week that didn't get much of attention because of the government shutdown was the fact that we have last week we had the lowest number of new people signing up for unemployment insurance claims since we've been keeping records back to the early 1970s. I mean, this is an amazingly strong economy. If you're looking for a job, folks, now is a good time to be finding a job because in most areas of the country, there's a shortage of workers, not a shortage of jobs. Not all areas, but maybe not Illinois, but in most areas of the country, this is a good time to be getting a job. And I do think, the good thing about having this tight labor market right now is that, as workers become more scarce and jobs become more plentiful, that gives workers a chance to bid up their wages. I know you guys have gone into your bosses at MAL and demanded that wage increase, and that's what more and more workers are going to do. And look, that was the whole idea behind our economic plan, was not to help the rich fat cats, but to try to allow middle class Americans to get the pay raise they haven't had in 20 years.
Well, the fun thing about that is it's got California all in a twist. This has been really interesting to watch over the last week. The one hand, you've got the Phil Ting, who I believe is related to Something Wong. He is
you fly too low.
Democrat representative from San Francisco. He wants to create a tax surcharge on California companies making more than $1 million so that half of their federal tax cut would go to programs that benefit low and middle income families. That's what he's doing. But then over there in the state Senate in California, you got the President Kevin DeLeon, who actually wants to help the rich avoid federal tax liability by turning the state or a state fund into a charity for which they can deduct up to 60% of their charitable contributions to the state agency that they're going to classify as a charity. So on the one hand, they're trying to help all their rich Silicon Valley types avoid federal taxes. On the other hand, they're trying to take their tax relief from the president away from him. So it's kind of fun to watch California.
So I know it is fun to watch, and my kind of reaction to that is, so does that mean if you're living in California, if it's a charitable contribution, that's a donation, right? You don't have to pay it, so it's optional, right? It's whether you have to pay your income taxes. Now, I like that idea. If you think you're getting great value for your money in Illinois and California, if you think your taxes are well spent, send the money in. If you don't spend it. I like that idea. Let's give taxpayers some choice here.
It's remarkable.
I don't know if the feds are going to allow the state of Illinois or the state of California to be reclassified as a 501c charitable organization. But we'll see about that.
Oh, hey,
we can make you laugh.
Wait, Steve, help us do some prep here. We got Luigi Zingales coming on the show next hour, and the topic is whether Facebook and Google are monopolies and whether at this point they should be subject to antitrust prosecution. What say you?
Well, what's so interesting about that issue is that, if you look at the giving, I just was looking at a study on this. Google, Apple, Amazon, Microsoft, and I think there's one other, big one, the big five. 96% of the donations from their executives, you know where it went?
Democrats.
Hillary.
Oh,
wow, 96%.
And Democrats. And the irony, of course, is who are the people who are trying to, to break up Amazon and Apple and, Facebook and these companies? The Democrats. And who are the ones who are benefiting the most from this tax cut? Apple, Amazon, Google, and so on. And, this is the way they repay those of us who worked our butt off to get this tax cut done. They're giving money to the enemies. Their political giving makes no sense, and yet I'm still going to defend them against. I don't believe in antitrust. We want want the strongest American companies in the world. We want to dominate the technology sector, and breaking up our technology companies is the stupidest idea I've ever heard.
Yeah, and then, oh, by the way, though, those guys didn't learn much from Bill Gates' experience at Microsoft with Department of Justice antitrust prosecution.
We're going to bring back the AT&T, suit that went on for, 20 years and resulted in nothing?
He is Steve Moore, Wall Street Journal columnist, CNN senior economist, Heritage Foundation economist. Steve, thanks as always for joining us. Appreciate it.
Okay, guys, I think they're coming after MAL next. You're a monopoly. Conservative thought.
And he joined us.
We're IND, but MAL's our sister station. He's so government. He's so DC-centric, Steve Moore.
And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.